At the beginning of a game, after you occupy the corners, at some point you have to approach your opponent. This approach is inevitable. And then something like this might happen. So let's say black and white both take the corners. Then they decide to reinforce their corners, like so. And then black decides to approach. And he makes this move. Have you seen this before? White responds. What do you think of this exchange? Is it good for white or good for black? If black plays anything else, any other move on the board, let's say black develops on the lower side, and then white makes this move, we would probably say that this is a little slow for white, even though this move protects the corner, but it certainly feels like white could have found a bigger and better move this early in the opening. For example, white could have split the right side, or played on this side, or could have played any other big point on the board. But white played this move in response to black's approach. So we should look at these moves side by side. So what is white getting here? White is getting some corner territory, and his two stones are becoming stronger. Now, what about black? Is black getting any territory? Not really. It's not clear how much territory black can make with this move. Is black becoming stronger? Not at all. This black stone is attached to a stronger white wall, and it's quite weak. So what is black getting here? Apparently black is getting himself in trouble, and it's not easy for black to make a follow-up on this move. If black plays here, for example, this stone doesn't really help this one. It doesn't make it stronger. It was better to play here to begin with. And in many cases, black would want to try and make himself stronger, so he would extend as well. And now, even if white simply extends, it feels good enough, because white is making territory on the fourth line. But white has an even better response here. White can hane, and if black tries to hane, double hane. Now, black has to crawl, white can connect. This looks like a nice sequence for both, but actually, each and every one of these moves is losing something for black and gaining something for white. White has a great corner and very good influence onto the left side. Black has a much smaller territory at the bottom, and his shape still has a weakness. All of black's trouble started with this low diagonal approach. In the same way, if instead of this black chooses to attach, it might not seem very obvious, but any attachment always puts you at a slight disadvantage. And here's why. If instead of the attachment black plays any other move, let's say here, this black stone has 4 liberties. The stone is strong, but once you attach, you immediately have 1 liberty less. And if white chooses to attack, hane, now you have 2 liberties left. You have to respond. If you don't, white will atari, and this is too painful. So let's say you extend, and white connects. And this exchange alone feels very good for white. White is having more influence, more territory, and you only have 2 stones. And at this point, some of you might ask, but Vadim, strong players are making attachments all the time in their games. Does it mean they're making mistakes? Of course not. Especially these days, AIs have come up with a lot of clever and creative ways of making attachments. What I'm saying is that these attachments will often lead to crazy and complicated variations. And if you are a double-digit Q player, I'm not sure you need that kind of complications in your games. And if you make this attachment and something goes wrong, it could lose you some stones, or it could lose you the game. But if attachments are risky and potentially dangerous, then this kind of low diagonal approach is just bad. It's as if during the war, you take some of your strong ranged weapons and you put them close to your opponent. And now all of a sudden, all of your powerful cannons and javelins and stone throwers and ballistas are becoming completely useless because they're meant to be used from a certain distance. So playing this kind of low diagonal approach is like using your powerful long-range projectile weapons in a close combat melee fight. But if you need to approach, then you should keep a distance of at least 1 point between you and your opponent. So if black wants to approach this corner, he should play here. This is one small step for a stone, but a huge difference in the world of Go. This way, white doesn't get immediately stronger, and black doesn't get weaker. But I don't want you to go away thinking that every diagonal move is wrong by definition. So look at this position here. It's white's turn, and white is starting to look in this direction with a great deal of apprehension, because black is trying to build a huge moyo in this area. If black adds a couple of more stones, like this, this is starting to look like a big framework that could turn into an 80-point territory. So white needs to prevent that. And right now, white could approach the corner, invade this side, but white has one more move he could think of. Approach him like this. And this is a diagonal approach, but it's a high diagonal approach, which is sometimes called a shoulder hit. It's as if this stone taps this black stone on the shoulder from above. And now, what's black going to do? Of course, black's going to respond, right? And now white is getting weaker, so what's white's plan? The plan is this, that white will jump lightly, and now something like this will follow. Black will probably wedge, Atari, black gets stronger, and white makes a beautiful shape. White is forcing black to take those points along the third line. But the idea is that black will get the minimum amount of territory. And as long as white doesn't die here and then escapes into the center, black is never going to get all of this, the original framework that he was trying to build. And all of this became possible because of this shoulder hit, high diagonal approach. So this move presses black down and tries to reduce black's territory as much as possible. And this kind of reduction is actually very, very common in Go. So we'll definitely get back to it and talk about it in more detail in the future. But for now, let's just say that if instead of the shoulder hit in this position, white tries any other low diagonal approach, it would still be wrong. Let's say white approaches like this, and black blocks, and this is good for black. Black gets this territory, white gets a weak stone. White approaches here, and black blocks, this is good for black. If white approaches here, and black blocks, black gets the corner, white gets a weak stone. Now if white wants to escape from here, black will gently chase white into the center while building this beautiful framework. This is perfect for black. So don't do this yourself. And if your opponent plays this move against you, whatever happens, don't ignore this. If you decide that it's not a big move and you'll play anywhere else, then you will turn this mistake into a good move. Now white will continue, and white gets a lot of points and steals your corner. But if you simply respond to it, then this punishes your opponent's mistake. Now you get a lot of points in the corner, white gets a weak stone, and you're getting the upper hand in this fight. And now that you know all of this, I think it's time to go and solve some approach move problems in the practice section. By the way, you can also watch these lessons on our platform, gomagic.org. Except there, you'll watch them with interactive quizzes right within the lessons and practical exercises right after them. And if you enjoy watching these Go videos and you don't want to miss others like this one, go smash that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and this is Go Magic.